Have you ever felt like you are working harder than everyone else, but somehow earning less? Have you ever stayed late at the office, finished tasks on time, helped your coworkers, and still, when payday comes, it feels disappointing? Why do some people seem to move ahead quickly, get promotions, earn more money, while others stay stuck in the same place for years? Is it luck? Is it talent? Or is it something else? Something quiet, something invisible? Today, we will explore a story that might feel very familiar to you, a story about hard work, but also hidden mistakes. Mistakes that many people make every day without even realizing it. His name was Min. Min was known as one of the hardest workers in his company. He arrived early. He left late. He rarely complained. And whenever his boss needed something, Min was always the first to say yes. Min is reliable, people said. Min is dedicated. Min is a good employee. But there was one thing people didn't say. Min was underpaid. Not just a little, a lot. Year after year, his salary barely changed. While others around him were getting raises, switching jobs, moving forward, Min stayed in the same position, doing more work, earning almost the same money. At first, Min told himself a simple story. If I work hard enough, they will notice. If I stay loyal, they will reward me. If I give my best, success will come. It sounded reasonable. It sounded fair. But reality was different. One evening, after another long day at work, Min sat alone at a small coffee shop. He opened his phone, and he saw something that made him pause. A former coworker. Someone who used to work at the same company. Someone who, honestly, didn't work as hard as Min. That person had just posted an update. Excited to start my new job. Salary doubled. New journey begins. Min stared at the screen. Doubled? How? Why? He remembered clearly that this person used to leave work earlier than him, talk more, work less. And yet, now they were earning twice as much. That night, Min couldn't sleep. He kept asking himself the same question. What am I doing wrong? The truth is, Min was not alone. There are millions of people like him, hardworking, responsible, reliable, but still underpaid. And the reason is not always what you think. Let's start with the first mistake. A mistake that feels right, but quietly holds you back. Mistake number 1, believing that hard work alone is enough. From a young age, many of us are taught a simple idea. Work hard, and you will succeed. It sounds powerful. It sounds motivating. But in the real world, this idea is only half true. Yes, hard work is important. But hard work without direction, without strategy, without visibility, can become a trap. Min worked hard, but he never asked himself a deeper question. Is this work actually valuable? Not all work is equal. Some tasks create real impact. Some tasks only keep you busy. Min said yes to everything. Small tasks, urgent tasks, other people's tasks. He became the person everyone depended on for things that, honestly, did not move the company forward. Meanwhile, others were focusing on different things. Projects that brought results. Ideas that saved time. Solutions that increased revenue. They were not necessarily working longer hours, but they were working on things that mattered more. And in the workplace, value matters more than effort. This is a difficult truth to accept, because effort feels personal. When you work hard, you feel like you deserve more, and you do. But the system does not always reward effort. It rewards results. It rewards visibility. It rewards impact. Min slowly began to realize something uncomfortable. He was busy, but not valuable enough. Not in the way that mattered. Another week passed. Then another. And Min started to observe more carefully. He noticed something interesting. The people who earned more did not always work the hardest. But they did something different. They spoke up in meetings. They shared ideas. They asked questions. They made sure their work was seen. They made sure their contributions were understood. Min did none of that. He stayed quiet. He did his work. And then he moved on to the next task. He believed that good work would speak for itself. But in reality, no one was really listening. And that leads to something even deeper, a silent pattern, a habit that many people have, especially those who are hardworking. They focus on doing the work, but forget to show the value of their work. Min started to feel something new, not just confusion, but frustration. A quiet frustration that grew a little more each day. One afternoon, his manager called him into a meeting. Min, you're doing great, the manager said. We really appreciate your effort. Min smiled politely, but inside he felt something break. Then why? He wanted to ask. Why am I still here? Why am I not growing? Why is nothing changing? But he didn't say anything. He just nodded and went back to his desk. That moment was the beginning of a shift. A small shift, but an important one. For the first time, Min stopped asking, how can I work harder? And started asking, what am I missing? And that question changes everything. Because sometimes the problem is not your effort. It's your strategy. It's your awareness. It's the invisible rules of the game that no one ever teaches you. In the next part, we will explore another mistake. A mistake that looks like loyalty, but often leads to being stuck. A mistake that many people are proud of, but secretly regret later. Stay with me, because the truth might surprise you. The next morning, Min arrived at work earlier than usual. But something inside him had changed. Not his routine, not his tasks, but the way he was thinking. For the first time, he started to watch, not just work, but people. He noticed who spoke during meetings, who made decisions, who got attention, and who didn't. And slowly, he began to see a pattern that had always been there, but he had never noticed before. This leads to the second mistake, a mistake that feels like loyalty, but often becomes a quiet trap. Mistake number 2, staying too long in the same place. Min had been working at the same company for 5 years, 5 years of consistency, 5 years of effort, 5 years of loyalty. He knew the system. He knew the people. He knew exactly how things worked, and that made him comfortable. Comfortable, but stuck. At first, staying felt like the right decision. He told himself, stability is important. Loyalty will be rewarded. I just need more time. But time does not always fix things. Sometimes time only makes the situation deeper. Min began to compare, not in a jealous way, but in a curious way. He looked at people who had left the company, people who had taken risks, people who had changed jobs, and he noticed something surprising. Most of them were doing better, higher salaries, better positions, more confidence, more growth. Meanwhile, Min was still in the same chair, doing similar tasks, with slightly more experience, but not much more value in the market. This is something many people don't realize. Staying in one place for too long can quietly reduce your worth, not because you are less capable, but because your environment stops challenging you. When you stay too long, you become predictable, you become safe, you become invisible. And in many companies, invisible employees are easy to ignore. Min started to feel this, not as a big shock, but as a slow understanding. One afternoon, a new employee joined the team. Her name was Lan. Lan was younger than Min, less experienced, new to the company. But within a few weeks, something interesting happened. Lan started asking questions, not simple questions, but thoughtful ones. Why do we do it this way? Is there a faster solution? Can we improve this process? At first, some people found it annoying. Even Min felt a little uncomfortable. He had never asked those questions. He had simply accepted the system. But then, something unexpected happened. Lan's ideas started to get attention. Managers noticed her. Meetings included her voice. Her name was mentioned more often. Min watched quietly. One day, during a small team discussion, Lan shared an idea. A simple idea, but a powerful one. It could save the team several hours each week. It could reduce errors. It could improve results. The manager nodded. That's a great point, he said. Let's try it. And just like that, Lan created value, visible value, not by working longer hours, not by staying late, but by thinking differently. That moment stayed in Min's mind. He realized something uncomfortable again. He had been in the company for 5 years, but he had never done that. He had never challenged the system. He had never questioned the process. He had never tried to improve things. He had only followed. And suddenly, his loyalty didn't feel like strength anymore. It felt like limitation. Another week passed, and Min made a small decision, a quiet one, but important. He updated his resume, not because he was ready to leave, but because he wanted to see something. He wanted to see his own value from the outside. When he looked at his resume, he felt confused. It was full of tasks, full of responsibilities, full of effort. But something was missing: impact. There were no strong results, no clear achievements, no numbers, no evidence of growth. Just work. That realization hit him harder than anything else. Because in the job market, people don't pay for effort. They pay for results. Min began to understand something deeper. Staying in one place had not made him stronger. It had made him comfortable, too comfortable to grow. And comfort can be dangerous. It feels safe, but it slowly limits your future. That evening, Min sat again in the same coffee shop, the same chair, the same quiet space. But this time, his thoughts were clearer. He was not angry. He was not sad. He was aware. Aware that something needed to change. Not immediately, not dramatically, but intentionally. He didn't need to quit his job tomorrow. But he needed to stop thinking like someone who would stay forever. Because the moment you believe, this is enough, is often the moment you stop growing. Min took a deep breath and asked himself a new question. If I stay here for another 2 years, will my life be different? The answer was silent, and that silence told him everything. In the next part, we will explore another mistake. A mistake that hides behind kindness. A mistake that makes you liked, but not respected. A mistake that quietly keeps your salary low, even when everyone says you are a good person. Stay with me, because this one is very easy to miss. The next few days, Min did something he had never done before. He started paying attention, not just to what people did, but how they were treated. He noticed something subtle, something easy to miss. There were people in the office who were not the hardest workers. They didn't stay late. They didn't say yes to everything. They didn't carry the heaviest workload. And yet, their voices mattered more. When they spoke, people listened. When they disagreed, people respected it. When they made suggestions, managers considered them seriously. Min found this confusing because in his mind, respect came from effort, from sacrifice, from being helpful. But reality was showing him something different. This leads to the third mistake, a mistake that feels kind, but often leads to being overlooked. Mistake number 3, trying to be liked by everyone. Min had always been a nice person. He avoided conflict. He agreed easily. He helped everyone. If a coworker needed help, he said yes. If someone asked him to take extra work, he said yes. If his manager gave him last-minute tasks, he said yes. He believed this made him valuable. He believed this made him a good employee. And in some ways, it did. People liked him. They trusted him. They felt comfortable around him. But something was missing. Respect. Not the kind of respect people say out loud, but the kind that changes how they treat you. The kind that affects your salary, your opportunities, your growth. Min began to see it clearly. One afternoon, he was working on a report that was not even his responsibility. But he had agreed to help. While he was doing that, he overheard a conversation. 2 coworkers were talking. One of them said, "Just give it to Min. He'll do it." They both laughed lightly, not in a mean way, just casually. But those words stayed with him. Just give it to Min. He'll do it. At that moment, Min felt something uncomfortable. He realized he had become predictable, not respected, not valued, but expected. Expected to say yes. Expected to take on more. Expected to carry the weight. And when something becomes expected, it stops being appreciated. That realization was painful because for years, Min believed he was building a strong reputation. But in reality, he was building a pattern where his kindness was being used. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but naturally. Because people respond to patterns. If you always say yes, people stop asking if you want to. They just assume. If you never disagree, people stop considering your opinion because they already know it. If you never set boundaries, people never see your limits. Min sat quietly at his desk, thinking about all the times he had said yes when he wanted to say no. All the times he had stayed silent when he had something to say. All the times he had accepted more work without question. And suddenly, he understood something important. Being liked is not the same as being respected. You can be kind and still be strong. You can be helpful and still have boundaries. You can be a good person and still say no. But Min had never learned that. He had learned to avoid discomfort, to avoid conflict, to avoid risk. And in doing so, he had also avoided growth. The next day, something small happened. But for Min, it felt big. A coworker came to him. "Hey, Min, can you help me finish this task?" "I'm a bit busy." Normally, Min would say yes immediately. But this time, he paused, just for a moment. But that moment was different. He looked at his own work. He looked at his schedule. And then he made a choice. "I'm sorry," he said calmly. "I'm a bit busy right now." "Maybe later." The coworker nodded. "Okay, no problem." And that was it. No conflict, no tension, no problem. But inside, Min felt something new. Relief. A small relief, but powerful. Because for the first time, he had chosen himself. Later that day, he noticed something interesting. The same coworker asked someone else for help, and that person also said yes. The world did not collapse. The task still got done, and Min realized something simple but important. He didn't have to carry everything. That evening, he reflected it again. Being nice is easy, but being respected requires something more. It requires clarity. It requires confidence. It requires the courage to be uncomfortable sometimes. Min was just beginning to understand this. He didn't change overnight. He didn't become a different person. But slowly, he started adjusting. He spoke a little more in meetings. He shared small ideas. He asked questions. At first, his voice felt unfamiliar, even to himself. But over time, it became easier, and people started to notice. Not dramatically, not immediately, but slowly. A manager once asked him, "What do you think about this approach?" That question was new, and it came from something simple. Min was no longer invisible, not because he worked harder, but because he showed himself. That night, as he walked home, Min felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, not loud, not overwhelming, but quiet, steady, real. Because now, he was not just working, he was learning. In the next part, we will explore another mistake. A mistake that hides behind patience. A mistake that makes people wait and wait and wait until one day they realize they waited too long. Stay with me, because this mistake is one of the most dangerous of all. There is another quiet mistake that many people make at work. It does not look like a mistake at first. In fact, it often looks like kindness. It looks like being helpful. It looks like being a good team player. But over time, it slowly reduces your value. This mistake is saying yes too often. At the beginning of your career, saying yes feels like the right thing to do. Someone asks for help, and you say yes. Your manager gives you extra work, and you say yes. A coworker cannot finish their task, and you say yes. You want to be liked. You want to be trusted. You want to show that you are capable. And for a while, this works. People start to see you as reliable. They know you will not refuse. They know you will take responsibility. But something else is happening quietly in the background. Your time is slowly being taken away from you. When you say yes to everything, you lose control of your focus. Your day becomes filled with small tasks that are not important. You become busy, but not valuable. And here is the problem. Salary is not based on how busy you are. It is based on the value you create. If your time is always spent helping others with their urgent problems, you never have time to do deep, meaningful work. You are always reacting. You are never leading. And people begin to see you in a certain way. Not as a high-level thinker, not as a problem solver, but as someone who is always available to support others. That role feels safe, but it is also limiting because support roles are often underpaid. Think about your own work for a moment. How many times have you said yes, even when you were already tired? How many times have you accepted tasks that did not help your growth? How many times have you helped someone else succeed while your own progress stayed the same? At first, it feels good to be helpful. But over time, something changes inside you. You begin to feel stretched. You begin to feel overwhelmed. And sometimes you quietly feel invisible. Because the more you give, the more people expect you to give. And rarely do they stop and ask, "Is this helping your career?" There is a simple truth that many people learn too late. If you do not protect your time, no one else will. This does not mean you should stop helping people, but it does mean you must be more intentional. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every task is your responsibility. Not every opportunity is truly an opportunity. Some are distractions, some are habits, some are simply other people's problems that they have learned to pass to you. Learning to say no is not rude, it is a skill, and it is one of the most important skills for increasing your value at work. But saying no is difficult, especially if you are used to being the reliable one. You may feel guilty. You may worry that people will think you are lazy. You may fear that your manager will be disappointed. But in reality, something different often happens. When you begin to set boundaries, people start to respect your time more. When you stop accepting everything, your yes becomes more meaningful. And when you focus on fewer, more important tasks, your results become stronger. Imagine two employees. The first one says yes to everything. They are always busy. They are always tired. They complete many small tasks, but nothing truly stands out. The second employee chooses carefully. They say no when necessary. They protect their time. They focus deeply on important work. They deliver strong, clear results. Which one do you think gets noticed? Which one do you think gets promoted? Which one do you think earns more? It is not about working more. It is about choosing better. There is also another hidden danger in always saying yes. You stop thinking about your own direction. When your time is controlled by others, you no longer decide what matters most. You simply follow. And slowly, your career becomes accidental. You wake up one day and realize you have been busy for years, but you are not where you wanted to be. This is not because you were lazy. It is because you were too available, too open, too willing, too generous with your time, but without a clear boundary. So how can you change this? It starts with a simple pause. The next time someone asks you to do something, do not answer immediately. Take a moment. Ask yourself, is this important for my role? Is this helping me grow? Is this the best use of my time today? If the answer is yes, then accept it with focus. If the answer is no, then you have a choice. You can still say yes, but with limits. Or you can say no with respect. For example, instead of saying, yes, I will do it, you can say, I would like to help, but I need to finish my current priorities first. Or, I may not be the best person for this task. Or, can we discuss which task is most important? These are not rejections. They are clarifications. They show that you are thinking about priorities. They show that you respect your work. And over time, they teach others to respect your time as well. There is a quiet power in choosing what you do and also in choosing what you do not do. When you stop saying yes to everything, you create space. Space to think, space to improve, space to create something meaningful. And this is where real value begins. Because the highest paid people are not the busiest. They are the most focused. They do fewer things, but do them exceptionally well. And they protect their time like it is something valuable. Because it is. Time is your most important resource, more important than effort, more important than energy. Because once it is gone, you cannot get it back. So every time you say yes, you are spending that resource. The question is, are you spending it wisely? Or are you giving it away too easily? This is not an easy habit to change. If you have been saying yes for a long time, it will feel uncomfortable at first. You may feel like you are disappointing people, but slowly, something shifts. You begin to feel more in control. You begin to feel more focused. You begin to see your work differently, and others will begin to see you differently too. Not just as someone who helps, but as someone who chooses. And that difference changes everything. There is one final mistake, and this one is the quietest of all. It does not show in your schedule. It does not appear in your daily tasks. No one points it out directly, but it affects everything. This mistake is not communicating your value. Many people believe that hard work will speak for itself. They believe that if they do their job well, someone will notice. Someone will reward them. Someone will say, you deserve more. But in reality, this rarely happens because in most workplaces, people are busy with their own responsibilities. Managers are focused on results. Teams are focused on deadlines. And if you do your work quietly, it often stays invisible, not because it is not important, but because it is not visible. There is a difference. You may be solving problems every day. You may be improving systems. You may be helping your team succeed. But if no one clearly understands your impact, it becomes very difficult for them to assign you higher value. And salary follows perceived value, not just real value, perceived value. This is where many hardworking people struggle. They think speaking about their work is bragging. They feel uncomfortable explaining their achievements. They worry that others will judge them, so they stay quiet. They complete their tasks. They move on to the next one, and they wait. But waiting is not a strategy, because silence creates confusion. When you do not communicate your results, others must guess. And most of the time, they underestimate. Not because they want to, but because they simply do not see everything you do. Imagine you work on a project. You spend days improving a process. You save the company time. You reduce errors. You make everything smoother. But you never explain this clearly. To you, it feels obvious. To others, it may look like a small change. And this is how value gets lost. Not in the work itself, but in the communication of the work. There is a simple truth. If you do not tell your story, someone else will tell it for you. And their version may be incomplete. Or even worse, they may not tell it at all. So what does it mean to communicate your value? It does not mean talking all the time. It does not mean exaggerating your achievements. It means being clear. It means showing impact. It means helping others understand why your work matters. For example, instead of saying, "I finished the report," you can say, "I completed the report and it helped the team identify 3 key problems that we can now fix." This small change makes a big difference because now your work has meaning. It has outcome. It has value. Another example, instead of saying, "I helped with the project," you can say, "I supported the project by organizing the workflow, which helped us finish 2 days earlier." Now people can see your contribution. They can measure it. They can remember it. And over time, these small moments build a clear picture, a picture of someone who creates results, someone who adds value, someone who deserves more. There are also simple ways to make your work more visible. You can share updates regularly. You can summarize your progress. You can highlight results in meetings, not in a loud way, but in a calm, clear way. For example, this week, I focused on improving the client process. We reduced response time by 20%. That is enough. You are not bragging. You are informing. You are helping others see. And this is important when it comes to growth, because promotions and salary increases are decisions, and decisions are based on information. If your manager does not have clear information about your impact, they cannot make a strong decision for you. Even if they like you, even if you work hard, they need clarity, and you are the best person to provide that clarity. There is also something deeper here. When you begin to communicate your value, you start to understand it better yourself. You begin to see patterns. You begin to notice what you do well. You begin to recognize your strengths. And this changes how you think. You stop seeing yourself as just someone who works hard, and you begin to see yourself as someone who creates results. This shift is powerful because confidence does not come from working more. It comes from understanding your impact. And when you understand your impact, you can speak about it calmly, clearly, without fear. There is one more important idea. You do not need to wait for a perfect moment. You do not need to wait for a performance review. You can start now, in small ways. After completing a task, take a moment to reflect. What did I improve? What problem did I solve? What result did I create? Then express it simply. Over time, this becomes natural, and people begin to notice, not because you changed your personality, but because you changed your visibility. And this is often the missing piece. Many people are not underpaid because they lack skill. They are underpaid because their value is not clearly seen. So when you combine everything we have talked about, working hard, but also working on the right things, being helpful, but also protecting your time, being reliable, but also setting boundaries. And finally, communicating your value clearly. Something begins to change, slowly at first, then more clearly. You feel more in control. You make better decisions. You focus on what matters. And others begin to see you differently, not just as someone who works hard, but as someone who understands value. And that is the difference. Because in the end, your career is not only about effort, it is about direction. It is about focus. It is about visibility. So, if you have been working hard for a long time and still feel underpaid, do not assume that effort is the problem. Look deeper. Look at how you choose your work. Look at how you protect your time. Look at how you communicate your value. Small changes in these areas can create big changes in your life. And the most important part is this: you do not need to change everything at once. You can begin with awareness. Just notice. Notice when you say yes too quickly. Notice when you stay silent about your results. Notice when you spend time on things that do not truly matter. Awareness is the first step. And from there, change becomes possible. Slowly, gently, in your own way. Thank you for spending this time here. If this story made you reflect, if it helped you see your work differently, then you are already moving forward. And if you would like to continue improving your English while exploring real-life ideas like this, stay with us. Listen slowly, think deeply, and grow one step at a time. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who works hard but deserves more. Because sometimes the smallest shift in thinking can change everything.